Greetings folks, and welcome to Murder on the Tracks Shorts, Part 1, which will be the first of a hopefully continuing series that mainly focuses on one aspect of the story, with Part 1 being Hillary Clinton on redacted documents. And it's something she said about a week ago, on April 12, 2019, that left me thinking, really? What a joke. So let's hear the full statement first, and she's talking about the just completed Robert Mueller report into the alleged Trump-Russia collusion hacking investigation.
So I would hope that the law is followed, that the information is provided, that the American public and the press has a chance to go through these 300 to 400 pages with, as few redactions or crossouts as possible.
As few redactions or crossouts as possible. And this coming from the Transparency Queen. Now, if you've been following the Murder on the Track series, you'll know that Kevin and Don were murdered on August 23, 1987, 32 years ago, and the FBI would finally get involved in the case from 1993 to 1998. And the murders of the boys hit on a national level, from television shows such as Unsolved Mysteries, and others, to the award-winning bestseller, The Boys on the Tracks, by author Mary Leverett, as well as countless articles in the mainstream media from coast to coast. And if you really want to understand the case, then watch the Murder on the Tracks documentary series, parts 1 through 4, and counting, where we take an in-depth look at the FBI's investigation through the eyes of their very own documents. And in them we can see there was plenty of witnesses that passed polygraphs, as well as law enforcement officers who failed. We also saw plenty of documents that state that law enforcement officials are involved in drug trafficking. We also saw the FBI state the victims, Kevin and Don, as reported by Richard Garrett on Unsolved Mysteries, saw something that they should not have, and that Dan Harmon was appointed the special prosecutor by Judge John Cole. And we also learned that the judge, John Cole, was paid to appoint Dan Harmon as special prosecutor. Then we saw the FBI report that states, after this murder was aired on Unsolved Mysteries, Harmon put Richard Garrett in charge of all leads. Individuals would call in with information, and a formal statement was never taken. The individual would then be threatened by telephone to keep his or her mouth shut. And we also learned that Dan Harmon, as special prosecutor, misused his authority, and that Harmon and Richard Garrett would continuously withhold information from the Arkansas State Police. And surrounding this case, there are at least 6 murders with possible links, which led the FBI to report, as a result of numerous homicides surrounding the incident related to the boys, individuals are very scared to talk to anyone due to fear for their own life. We also saw an FBI report that states 2 males from the patrol car began beating the boys, and then threw the boys in the back of the patrol car and took off. And one of those officers from the patrol car has been named as Kirk Lane, according to various Arkansas State Police reports. And the other officer implicated was Lane's best friend and partner, Jay Campbell. In the FBI reports, the situation got out of hand. Kevin Ives was struck in the head and rendered unconscious, possibly killed. Don Henry then ran, at which time he was possibly stabbed in the back. Then we see the FBI's Little Rock division had been gathering intelligence on current political corruption in Saline County, which paralleled the corruption resulting in captured victims' deaths, and that law enforcement officials may have been involved in the deaths. And we also saw that all kinds of evidence from the case began to go missing. And would see the FBI state in their report, it is very apparent that a well-orchestrated conspiracy surrounds Caption case. And document after document, report after report, lists how a cover-up of the murders involved law enforcement and political officials. So what did the FBI do when Kevin's mother, Linda Ives, and author Mary Leverett filed for Freedom of Information requests? Well, we saw that the FBI began their own cover-up, and told Linda Ives and Mary Leverett that headquarters located no records responsive. And this was the end of 1999. The FBI had already amassed thousands of documents on the case. They were just lying through their teeth, and trying to close down the investigation and bury it all, stating, based on the foregoing, meaning all the stuff we just looked at, times thousands, it is my recommendation that the FBI conduct no further investigation into this matter. We cannot state a murder even occurred. So how about that? The FBI apparently can't even figure out if there was a murder or not. Anyways, after much outrage, then Arkansas Congressman Vic Snyder got the FBI to admit that they had 17,000 pages of documents that relate to Kevin and Don's murders. And early in the year 2000, the FBI finally released approximately 2,000 documents to Linda Ives, which is where all the clippings that we've been looking at comes from. And even though the murders happened 32 years ago, there's hundreds and hundreds of pages that look like this. And to this day, 32 years later, the FBI still refuses to unredact them. And then I see Hillary Clinton saying this about redacted documents.
So I would hope that the American public and the press has a chance to go through these pages with, as few redactions or crossouts as possible.
So how about the redactions and crossouts in these documents? Do you think she wants the same transparency and clarity from them? I mean, come on, it's been 32 years. And let's not forget that the murders happened when Bill Clinton was the governor. And all these corrupt officials, and many more, worked in his state, and were either involved in the murders of Kevin and Don, or the cover-up, or both. And let's also not forget that when Bill Clinton changed addresses and moved into the White House, it was his FBI that finished the cover-up and blacked out all these pages to begin with. So even though I'd like to be able to ask, what are Hillary's thoughts on the redactions of the documents pertaining to Kevin and Don, I think I pretty much know what the answer to that question might be. And to expand on that, let's have a quick run through a past that I bet most of you don't know anything about. In looking to the past, we can see that in 1996, after nearly 2 years, the White House unexpectedly discovered copies of missing documents from Hillary's law firm. And they were documents that pertained to Vince Foster and were found in a room directly across from Hillary's private office on the 3rd floor at the White House, sitting right out in the open on a coffee table at that. And her fingerprints were all over them as well. Missing for 2 years, indeed. They also just so happened to show up mere days after a statute of limitations ran out that would have allowed some of the insurance companies in the Whitewater scandal to be able to launch a lawsuit against the Clintons. So that was good timing, huh? Anyways, if we fast forward to April 1st, 2005, we see that Sandy Berger, who was Bill Clinton's national security advisor, would plead guilty to intentionally removing and destroying classified documents about the Clinton administration. And this took place at the National Archives.
When I was in the archives reviewing documents, I made an honest mistake.
An honest mistake, eh? And for his troubles, Sandy Berger only got a slap on the wrist. He got a small fine, some probation, and some minor community hours. But let's take a closer look at his honest mistake. And from the Congressional Committee on Oversight and Government Reform's investigation, concluding in 2007, we can see that on July 18, 2003, Sandy Berger removed classified notes. And then again on September 2, 2003, Sandy Berger removed classified documents from the archives. And then on October 2, 2003, Berger again removed classified documents from the archives. Berger also removed the classified notes he took.
I made an honest mistake.
Looks to me like you made 3 honest mistakes. Jesus, Murphy. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I guess fool me 3 times, fuck it. We'll set you up in a government think tank with a nice big fat paycheck, and you can plot and plan military incursions in foreign lands over in the Middle East. It's like we're living in some sort of version of the Twilight Zone. Growing up, I was taught that it was 3 strikes and you're out, not rewarded with government handout jobs behind the scenes. Anyways, moving along, we see that in 2009, the National Archives again loses a hard drive with Clinton records, and it was a 2 terabyte hard drive that contained hundreds of thousands of records. And then of course we see by 2015 that Hillary deleted 33,000 emails with no oversight, because you know, they're just yoga emails and recipes, and that one email from Bill. And then we see in 2016, FBI documents relating Hillary Clinton and Vince Foster go missing. And where did they go missing from? Well, the National Archives, of course. And what they were the notes from the investigation into Vince Foster, and they reportedly detailed his last staff meeting that Hillary Clinton attended, where she berated and talked down to him. And my guess is that there would be a lot of swearing involved as well. So having those documents go missing was probably some very fortunate timing for Hillary's campaign. And going back to Hillary's emails, let's have a look at the Clinton relationship with James Comey. And from Time.com, we can see where they say, Comey's first brush with him came when Bill Clinton was president, as Deputy Special Counsel to the Senate Whitewater Committee in 1996. And after months of work, Comey came to some damning conclusions. Hillary Clinton was personally involved in mishandling documents, and had ordered others to block investigators as they pursued their case. Worse, her behavior fit into a pattern of concealment. She and her husband, Bill Clinton, had tried to hide their roles in 2 other matters, under investigation by law enforcement. Taken together, the interference by White House officials, which included the destruction of documents, amounted to, quote, far more than just aggressive lawyering or political naivety, Comey and his fellow investigators concluded. It constituted, quote, a highly improper pattern of deliberate misconduct. And that was James Comey's first brush with the Clintons in 1996. And then we can see in this CNN article about the Clintons, and they say their first run-in came in the mid-1990s, when Comey joined the Senate Whitewater Committee as a Deputy Special Counsel. And all they say is there he dug into the allegations that the Clintons took part in the fraud, while at the same time not mentioning a peep about the stuff we just looked at that Time magazine published. And it does get rather confusing when trying to figure out the mainstream media. And here's a great example of that, where we see the news breaking that former DNC chairwoman, Donna Brazile, has proof that Hillary Clinton rigged the nominations for the Democratic primaries. And that news was breaking across the mainstream media on November 2nd, 2017. Meanwhile, on the same day, November 2nd, 2017, we see from PBS that Hillary Clinton received the 2017 Democratic Woman of the Year award. Are you kidding me? On the same day that the news is breaking across the mainstream media that there's proof that Clinton rigged the Democratic primaries, she's getting the 2017 Democratic Woman of the Year award? Yeah. Anyways, back to Comey. In 2002, Comey, then a federal prosecutor, took over an investigation into President Bill Clinton's 2001 pardon of financier Mark Rich, and Comey ultimately decided not to pursue the case, which is a little bit odd because it was Comey who prosecuted and convicted Mark Rich to begin with. So what, because Bill Clinton said his buddy Mark Rich wasn't guilty, Comey just went along with it and said, okay. And remember Sandy Berger, who stole Clinton documents from the National Archives? Not once, not twice, but 3 times, and didn't go to jail? Well, again, we see James Comey, who played a large role in investigating Sandy Berger. So to me, I wasn't really surprised when Comey said this about Hillary's emails.
Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
And that's because any reasonable prosecutor knows they'd be making career suicide. You're just simply not allowed to indict the protected ones. At any rate, we can see what Comey truly is. A political hack. A fraud and a cover-up artist that's been cleaning up after the Clintons for over 20 years now. And let's have a look at another little bit of history that most people don't know anything about. And that's the fact that they were going to charge Hillary Clinton back in the late 1990s, going so far as drawing up draft indictments of the charges. And as we can see in March of 2016, Judicial Watch, an excellent organization that doesn't get anywhere near the credit I think it deserves, announced that it was asking a federal court to order the National Records and Archives Administration to release draft criminal indictments of Hillary Clinton. In the National Archives again? I'm surprised those documents hadn't gone missing as well. These developments stem from an October 20th, 2015 Judicial Watch Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. The draft indictments relate to allegations that Clinton provided false information and withheld evidence from federal investigators to conceal her involvement, which led to multiple criminal convictions. Clinton provided legal representation to Madison Guarantee as an attorney at the Rose Law Firm in Little Rock, Arkansas. The National Archives confirmed that it has located the Clinton draft indictments, stating, included among the records are drafts of a proposed indictment of Hillary Rodham Clinton. Box 2256 contains a folder labeled Hillary Rodham Clinton / Webster L. Hubble draft indictment. So how about that? Hillary Clinton was going to be indicted in the late 1990s. But I guess with being the sitting president's wife and all, that wouldn't go over too well. And ultimately, the National Archives wouldn't release the records to Judicial Watch, citing concern for Hillary's privacy. And think about it, this was in the run-up to the 2016 elections. Don't you think the public has a right to know what one of the candidates were going to be charged with at one time? What if the draft indictments were for murder? Of course they weren't, but for some reason we're not allowed to know what they were. But when you look at this article by Judicial Watch and what it says, and combine it with what Time magazine stated about what Comey discovered, you get a pretty good idea of what the draft indictments against Hillary probably say. And again, she's running for president, and they cite her privacy as a reason for not releasing these documents? Imagine if the name in that draft indictment said Donald Trump and not Hillary Clinton. If that were the case, I'll bet anything the mainstream media and Hillary Clinton would have been saying this.
So I would hope that the law is followed, that the information is provided.
But it's not likely we'll ever hear Hillary Clinton say words like that about her own documentation, will we? And if you really want to dig into it, go watch my video Clinton Cash, Decades of Documenteering, where I take an in-depth look at all the things we've just talked about, and so much more. But in going back to the FBI's redacted files on Kevin and Don's murders, I wholeheartedly agree with this statement.
So I would hope that the American public and the press has a chance to go through these pages with, as few redactions or crossouts as possible.
And I would hope that these documents, too, should be released with as few redactions and crossouts as possible. And here's a couple more questions you should be asking yourself. Why does the FBI have thousands of documents on the murders of Kevin and Don? I mean, the murders of 2 boys, 17 and 16 years old, garners that much attention from the FBI? And also, why are these documents still being redacted 32 years later? And I'm pretty sure the answer to these questions can be found in the Murder on the Track series. So I'm going to sign off for now and want to say thank you for watching and all your support. And we'll be back soon with another Murder on the Track shorts to continue the series.